Today we have the instructional how-to video for the Dan Ivy concession trailer. I'm going to go over the functions, operations, and shutdown procedures of your brand new concession. I have your generator together and in my building, just due to the outside weather and not knowing 100% when a customer will come pick up their trailer. So we put it on the day that they do arrive in for pickup. So I have my shore power connection hooked up at the current moment. Got your 100 amp panel here, all 20 amp independent circuits, battery charger for the 12 volt lighting system, and we have the battery for the 12 volt lighting system, which includes the lights interior and exterior as well as the water pump. As you can see, the light here for the water heater on, heating the water itself. Before I ever put power to that unit, I made sure I had continuous water flow out of both faucets on hot and cold water side before I ever put electricity to it. Grease trap here, fresh water tank, got your drain valve, and as well as your winterization blowout valve, which as soon as I'm done with the video, I will be winterizing the trailer again, just due to the unknown climate change here in Nashville. So water pump filter. We've got your fresh water non-pressure side for filling the freshwater tank itself. So this is the side for filling the freshwater tank and using the water pump. Periodically you're going to need to put some bleach here into the tank for cleaning purposes. However, I do not recommend ever drinking the water out of the freshwater tank. That is just for cooking and cleaning purposes. Bottled water is cheap enough to not have to worry about drinking that as far as itself, unless you purify it. As far as this video I am making, I'm using the pressurized side, bypassing the tank and pump. So with your food grade or NSF approved water hose, you can hook into this port here. Be able to move the flap out of the way and lock it up so that nobody can tamper with it, at least here at the water source itself. We have the wastewater contraption here, so once you remove the cap, hook up your 3-inch RV waste hose and pull the gate valve out of the way. It's going to release the contents from the tank. Once that's finished, you'll be able to close that valve up, remove the hose, and put the cap back in place for transportation. Periodically put some bleach in the drains for the sinks itself to help neutralize the odor from the waste tank when you go to dump the contents out of the waste tank itself. Concession door up, flip up counter set in place. Pressing upward allows that to go back to a fixed downward position. Same thing when you get to the 90 degrees, press upward in a fast motion and it will unlock these pins and allow for being able to use your flip up counter. It is easier obviously with both hands rather than one hand. Just to make sure that you use the center of the flip up counter. Both of your tanks are empty here for this video itself. However, I do have a live tank for testing, as well as once finished with the testing, making this video itself. Go ahead and go over the electrical real quick and then explain show this plug working, explain the rest of the products, procedures, especially for the gas itself. Setting at 179 degrees, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this unit off as it's been to its ample temperature here for some time now. Fire suppression system, again, we'll go over here in just a moment. Water pump switch located here. Plug here right behind the concession window. Plug right behind the sandwich prep. Plug right behind the under counter freezer. And then I can't get the plug tester in there. However, I can go ahead and show you that it's working by the -4 temperature it is providing at this moment. The sandwich prep here at 33 degrees. Fridge here at 33 degrees also. All the paperwork for your cook line equipment, as well as the fire suppression, water heater, water pump, as well as the warming cabinet, are in the fridge. We also have the feet for the deep fryers. Most importantly is the drain tube for each deep fryer, as well as the paperwork for each deep fryer. And griddle and 2-burner hot plate, as well as the refrigeration items. Do take the time to read over all of the manuals for your equipment for proper maintenance and cleaning of your cooking and refrigeration appliances. So for the fire suppression system, this system is live and ready to go. You'll need to have your local fire suppression company, as well as your local fire marshal, come out and tag and certify and test the system. That way you can legally be able to operate. In case of a fire, here's your emergency pull here. I would highly suggest trying to suppress the fire out with fire extinguishers before using the fire suppression system. Nobody other than a licensed fire suppression company needs to tamper or adjust any of the nozzles and or heat sensors behind the exhaust fans. As you can see, these filters are removable for cleaning purposes. You will clean with hot water and a mild soap. Be able to rinse and thoroughly allow time for adequate air dry. When you put those filters back in place, keep that gap as minimal as possible. You do not want a gap like so, as you will have potential grease blow-by going up into the filters or up into the fan housing up top. What grease does not collect in the filters runs to the drip tray. It goes to the drip cup that you need to monitor daily, as it is directly above your 2-burner hot plate. For the 2-burner hot plate, it does have a drip pan that you'll need to monitor daily as well, and also so does the griddle itself. Before we ever turn the propane on, one thing we want to do is make sure the concession window is open, but make sure this switch is in the on position, as we have at this moment. You can see the lights lit up and you can hear the noise in the background. But also we want to make sure that those control knobs are in the off position for your cooking equipment. With that being said, at this moment, then you will pressurize the tank itself. You'll turn your tank valve on, pressurizing the line to this point. Now on initial startup, your line is going to be looking like this, but because of testing and I have everything running, it's going to be like this here in itself. So whether you're using this regulator or the regulator right behind me, the most important thing you can do is pay attention to your regulators. Again, you only run one tank at a time, so whether it's the driver's side or the passenger side regulator, the most important thing is once you pressurize to the shutoff valve, when you turn this valve on, you should hear the line charge itself, which is nothing more than shh sound. If you have continuous gas flow going through your regulator at time of startup, you immediately need to shut that gas off. The reason this is so important is this gas piping runs down below and hugs the frame of the trailer. And in transport, road debris such as tires, blocks of wood, rocks, concrete, anything of that magnitude hitting this Schedule 80 gas pipe can pierce, break, or damage the line in such an effort that it would leak gas out underneath the trailer. Well, propane is heavy, so it would accumulate under the trailer, and if there was a spark to arise, you were potentially sitting on top of a very dangerous situation. So we do not want to take anything at risk. So again, the most important thing, pressurize here to the shutoff valve. Hood system's on. We know the equipment is in the off position. We pressurize. As long as we pressurize and no running gas, we are good to go. At that point, you can continue on with the day. I can never stress it enough. If you have continuous gas flow coming through either one of your regulators at initial startup, you immediately shut that valve off. Contact your local gas company or plumbing company that's certified in gas piping to come out, inspect, and fix the repair as needed for a safe operation. There is no event, no amount of money that is worth not paying attention to that every time that you move the trailer. So as I come inside, or as you will enter inside, you will notice these stay in the off position until those pilot lights are lit. And as you can see here, from my testing I've already done, you can light that pilot without ever turning these control knobs on. Again, I'll blow the pilot light out so you can see it. Just put your flame there. You'll need plenty of these lighters for lighting purposes. Once you can see your pilot light actively burning, then you can turn the control knobs to the on position. Proceed forward. Do not light just one or the other, light both of them. That way, in case if you didn't have one lit and you turn that control knob, there's a cumulative gas coming in. Very dangerous setup. Don't want that to happen. I have the burners themselves wire tied to the frame of the unit. Do not remove this. Eventually, due to excessive heat, as you will see right here, it will break sometime sooner than later. But replace with more metal wire, wrapping the burners around the frame, twist it with a pair of pliers, cut it and fold it over, and you're able to operate with that wire there. Very simple but effective process. Now for lighting the griddle, you can use a mirror, or you can sit down on the floor like I'm doing at this current moment, whichever way works for you. Again, you never touch these control knobs until you know that your pilot lights are lit. As I mentioned earlier, outside propane is heavy, so as long as you have your lighter here below that pilot, there's enough gas coming out that you'll be able to light that pilot as you see indicated here in this video. Once you have a strong steady flame for your pilots, then you can activate those burners to that desired temp as you need and cook however long you want. I'm going to show you the fryers working. I'll turn them off and then explain how to light them. The reason I go ahead and leave everything lit after testing the trailer is it takes two hands to light the deep fryer itself, whereas you can light the griddle and the two burner with one hand. So as you see the thermal pile actively burning, you can see it's to the on position here. The thermostat's off, but we will go ahead and turn on. See, this is off, and I have no flame to the thermopile. You can still see it a little hot, red. So on initial startup, this is how your fryer would always be. I do this twice to make sure this thermostat connects with this gas valve. At that point, then I rotate to where the L meets the red dot and push in. You will need to push and hold here and administer fire to the thermopile. Once the thermopile is lit, continue to hold this pilot button in place for generally 10 to 15 seconds. Once you can slowly release this pilot button and keep a strong, steady flame on your thermopile, you can then activate the control knob to the on position. And when you desire to operate the equipment, then you can select the temperature as needed for the cooking process. Just make sure at the end of the day, not only is this off, but also this unit back here for the pilot itself. As I mentioned, in the fridge, there is a drain tube. It'll thread into this drain hose adapter, allow you to open up and dump the contents that are in the deep fryer itself. You'll need to do that every time that you transport the unit. There is no lid made that will hold the oil in place. Also, you will see this item here. It helps keep the flame in. It is removable. It can fall off in transport. Just make sure you put it back on after you have the pilot light lit. If you choose to remove it for lighting, that's fine. It needs to go back in place because I'll use this as an example. If you leave the lid off, if you have oil spillover, and that flame comes floating out and connects with that oil, you potentially have a grease fire. Do not want that. So again, this is highly recommended. This stays in place. It's going to keep the heat inside. It's going to keep the flame inside. That is how you properly light your cooking equipment in the safest manner that I have been able to do in the many years I've been doing this. Please follow the guidelines for safety. These are put in place for your safety as well as your employees itself. When you are done at the end of the day, make sure that you turn not only the tank off, but your shut-off valve. Make sure all of the cooking equipment is in the off position. Once you have that off, when you're ready, you can turn that hood fan off itself. There's there's a couple of reasons you always want to have the hood fan on. First is the propane itself, pulling it up. Again, propane's heavy. It'll help pull it up to a person's nose where they can smell if one of these control knobs was on and there was propane just highly coming in. Help them to be able to smell and figure out that situation. Second, burnt propane produces carbon monoxide. That's more, it's a deadly gas at that point. It can kill you or hospitalize you, make you very sick. Secondary is those sensors, those heat sensors behind those filters. If they get too hot because the hood fan's not running and they pop or break, everything in this tank is going to come emitting out of these nozzles. It's going to cost you a few thousand to clean up, as well as recharge the system, as well as the 1 to 2 weeks downtime. So I say this cooking equipment is not for heating yourself in the winter time if you choose to operate in the winter. I say that because I've had customers that have done that and there's been consequences due to turning that hood fan off and using the burners as their heat source inside when it is extremely cold. These units that are on the roof itself, they are great when the hood fan's not on. If you want low heat, that's fine. Turn it to the low heat setting, close the window, close the door. No cooking in operation, you're doing prep and cleanup. But I will tell you, once you go to cooking, you might as well go ahead and turn that off. Whether it's on the heat side or the AC side, you're not going to be able to feel it. They are only good for prep and cleanup purposes only. When that hood fan's on, that's pulling so much airflow The hood is pulling so much airflow the AC cannot keep up or heat. At the end of each day, again, propane needs to be turned off. Anything that is set on the counters as loose items needs to be removed and put in a safe place for transportation. Definitely want to make sure that your warming cabinet is in the off position as well. I'm going to go ahead and show what water we have. I don't know the temp that it's going to be at, but we'll go ahead and check it out. We're heating up. So we're over 110 and still climbing, which is great because I just started the water heater actually right maybe 5 minutes before I did the video itself. I was worried about testing everything else, not the actual water heater, as it's already been tested. Again, at the end of each day, you want to make sure that you turn those light switches off. No propane's going to be in there. Be able to close up the doors itself. You want to make sure that your blinkers, running lights, brake lights are always functioning properly before you go into transportation itself. Again, with the wastewater, once that tank is completely drained out, I'm gonna leave that open just because of winterization I'll be doing here in a moment. But you want to make sure that you disconnect your hose and put the cap back in place, as well as removing the freshwater hose itself. And if you are on your shore power or generator power, disconnecting that and putting the cable back inside. Flip up counter, again, using the middle itself as a reference point. Pressing upward allows that to go back down to a fixed position. Been able to shut the concession window and latch in it as well. Also, once a year, you will need to remove the rubber caps behind or on each wheel to apply grease to the zert fittings. This will promote long-lasting bearing life for each of the wheel hubs itself. Also, highly recommend checking the lug nuts every time that you go into transportation, just to make sure you have safe travels, as well as making sure you have adequate air pressure in your tires. We thank you for taking the time to view this video. We make these videos to be able to show the customer their product before they come to pick up their trailer, or if their trailer is getting delivered to them before it gets there to them, so that they can see the finished product. If you do have any questions or concerns about this video and or your trailer, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We'll be glad to assist in any way. We thank you so much for your business and wish you the very best.